fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to roll-out facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we tackle the tough conversations that shape the future of dairy. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most critical challenges facing our industry: succession planning. If you think your farm's biggest threat comes from volatile milk prices or rising feed costs, think again. The statistics we're about to share will shock you. 83.5% of family dairy operations fail to survive to the third generation. That's not a typo. 8 out of 10 dairy legacies simply vanish, with nearly a quarter of operators retiring within the next 5 years, and most lacking any real succession plan. We're staring down a crisis that could reshape the entire North American dairy landscape. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be your story. In today's episode, we're breaking down why most succession plans fail, what separates the survivors from the statistics, and giving you a roadmap to beat the odds. Whether you're planning expansion, maintaining current scale, or haven't even started thinking about succession, this episode could determine whether your farm becomes a lasting legacy or just another casualty. Let's get into it.
Welcome. Another deep dive is upon us, and this one, it hits right at the core of, well, the future of your farm. We're staring down a number today that, frankly, feels a bit like getting kicked by a dry cow: 83.5%. That's the staggering percentage of family dairy farms the research tells us won't make it to the third generation. 83.5%. Yikes.
It is a sobering figure, yeah, no question. Looking at the material for this deep dive, it really lays out the stark reality facing North American dairies. And it's not just about, hitting production goals or chasing market prices. It's fundamentally about the passing of the torch, the successful transition of the operation itself.
Okay, let's unpack this 83.5%. Where does that statistic actually come from? And why are the odds so much worse for dairy farms compared to, say, a family-owned hardware store?
Well, that specific 83.5% number comes from research, like the work cited from Iowa State. And what's fascinating, or maybe terrifying, is how much higher it is than the general survival rate for any family business, which is already down around a dismal 16.5%.
16.5, wow.
Oh. Yeah. So dairy faces incredibly steep odds when it comes to keeping the farm in the family. The picture the research paints is pretty blunt. It's an industry standing on, like a cliff edge. They note that a quarter of operators are planning retirement within the next 5 years. And here's the kicker. 8 out of 10 farmers, according to that Iowa State work, lack faith in their current succession plans.
Wait, hold on. So most people know they need a plan. They maybe even have a plan on paper, but they don't actually think it's going to work. That feels like having a brand new, beautiful rotary parlor system, but no way to cool the milk. All the fancy tech is there, looks great, but the core function needed for survival just isn't happening.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. And the Ag Census data, it really supports this crisis of confidence layered on top of a crisis of inaction. Barely half of farms, we learned, have even started succession planning.
Only half.
Right. And of those who have, only 20% actually believe their plan will be effective. It's this widespread recognition of the problem without effective action,
So what are these massive hurdles then? What's tripping up 83.5% of farms? The sources point to 3 main areas: financial, familial, and, emotional roadblocks. Let's dig into those, starting with the money mountain.
Yeah, the financial piece is huge. The research highlights the sheer scale of capital required in dairy today. This isn't your grandparents' startup, not by a long shot. We're talking significant numbers. Land costs north of, $5,500 an acre in some places?
Easily.
A new parlor system can easily set you back over $200,000. TMR mixers costing more than luxury cars. And don't forget the immense value tied up in breeding stock. Generations of genetic work right there.
Trying to convert your entire herd to A2A2 overnight? That seems like child's play compared to this financial hurdle. The research makes a really pointed analogy here, expecting a successor to somehow write a massive buyout check covering all these assets while simultaneously keeping the farm running and profitable. They state pretty bluntly that the classic buyout model is effectively crashing and burning for most operations today. The numbers just don't pencil out for one individual to shoulder it all up front.
Exactly. Which shifts us from the finances to the dynamics closer to home. The research argues the real complexities, the real time bombs, aren't ticking in the freestall barn, but around the kitchen table. They talk about issues like decades of smoldering family conflicts left unaddressed, competing visions for the farm's future that nobody dares discuss.
Oh, yeah.
And communication breakdowns so severe they make unreliable cell service look like a stable connection.
Right. And one critical point highlighted by sources like Compure Financial is that deep-seated need to treat all children equally. It often seriously damages the farm's survival. Trying to split things perfectly evenly among siblings, some involved in the farm, some not often means you end up having to sell off productive assets just to square things up.
Exactly. It can leave nothing viable, or certainly nothing competitive, to transition to the child who's committed to running the farm. It starves the farm to balance the scales outside of it.
That makes sense. And then you layer on the emotional roadblocks, the kind no spreadsheet can navigate, right?
Oh, absolutely. The research talks a lot about control. You might have mom and dad maybe clutching the checkbook, wanting to maintain control, while Junior is desperate for enough authority to actually make necessary changes, invest, and move the operation forward. This emotional standoff, it creates barriers taller than your corn is in August.
It's a bit like trying to boost conception rates with premium semen when nobody's checking heats, isn't it? You can have the best technical plan, the best genetics, the best intentions for the business, but if you don't address the human dynamics, the control issues, the communication, it's all useless.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
And the research from Iowa State drives this home. 71% of farmers nearing retirement haven't even tagged a successor.
71%?
Yeah. So having a plan without addressing the people involved, identifying who takes over and preparing them, means all that technical excellence amounts to, well, nothing.
Okay, so with those significant barriers firmly in mind, what separates the successful 17% from the 83.5% failures?
According to the research, it's not just luck or simply having deeper pockets. It's implementing a comprehensive blueprint, one that tackles every dimension of the transition, not just the balance sheet.
Right. And a key part of that blueprint seems to be getting started early, like really early.
Absolutely essential. The research stresses that early planning isn't just better, it's vital, needing a 5 to 10 year runway.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's roughly the time it takes to grow genomically superior heifers into the mature herd backbone. You can't rush genetics, and you really can't rush a successful, sustainable transition.
And research, like in the Journal of Agribusiness, confirms this. That waiting too long is basically setting yourself up for failure.
It confirms exactly that. Waiting too long is fundamentally flawed, like planting corn in November, as they put it. The timing is just wrong for success.
Okay, what about those tough family discussions then? The ones everyone avoids?
Yeah, the research asks directly, are you just hoping uncomfortable topics disappear like mastitis without treatment?
Huh. Good luck with that.
Right. Progressive families, they found, don't leave communication to chance. They are incredibly deliberate about it.
How so? What methods are they using?
Well, they detail specific methods used by successful operations. Things like structured monthly meetings with actual agendas, not just spontaneous high-tension talks when someone's mad.
Makes sense.
They use listening-first protocols where everyone gets their say without interruption. They keep written records of agreements and sticking points, to avoid that he said, she said later on.
Crucial.
And crucially, they aren't afraid to use professional facilitators for baggage dating back to childhood, because some things just can't be resolved internally. Think of applying this like applying religious dedication to your herd health protocols, consistent, deliberate, non-negotiable.
Okay, and that financial mountain we talked about. Is the old way of doing things just torpedoing chances from the start?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The research says smart operations are dumping the old buy everything or nothing model faster than culling a 3-quartered chronic. It's like precision feeding versus a one-size-fits-all TMR. The industry evolved to be more precise, and succession finance has to evolve too.
So what's the leading alternative then?
One leading advisor recommendation the research highlights is splitting operations. This means creating 2 distinct entities. An asset holding company, where the senior generation keeps the land and major equipment, and then an operating company, which the successor runs, focusing on the day-to-day production.
Right. I've heard of that. And there was a Canadian Bar Association case study.
Yes, exactly. It provides a great analogy. It's cleaner than separating dry cows from the milking string while efficiently serving both purposes. This structure significantly slashes the successor's upfront capital requirements. They don't have to buy the land and expensive equipment immediately.
And it gives the senior generation income.
Exactly. It creates a guaranteed retirement income for them via lease payments from the operating company to the asset company. It's a win-win, potentially.
Okay, let's talk advisors. Your advisory team is critical, right? The research had a sharp point about that.
Well, yeah. It poses the question, would you let a vet who only treats parakeets near your prized genetics?
Absolutely not.
Right. So why trust generic financial advisors with your farm's multi-generational future?
You need specialists. You need agricultural estate planners who've actually seen dairy transitions, who understand the nuances, financial advisors who can tell a TMR mixer from a cement truck.
Precisely. Don't trust your farm's future to advisors lacking deep agricultural expertise. Just like you wouldn't trust your genetic program to someone who thinks an RHA is some kind of book report, expertise matters immensely here.
Okay, another interesting strategy. Trial periods for successors, like dating before marriage.
Yeah, the research strongly suggests this. Forward-thinking farms are now using structured trial periods with clear metrics, clear responsibilities, and importantly, escape hatches before signatures hit paper and the formal transfer occurs.
That makes so much more sense than dropping 6 figures on embryo work without genomically testing the bloodlines first. Define specific responsibilities, set performance benchmarks for the successor, and crucially, create clear exit routes if the fit just isn't right for either party. Seems smart.
It is smart. And finally, developing successors. This needs the same systematic approach you apply to building your herd, right? The research notes successful plans include components like formal education, maybe some crucial off-farm experience for broader perspectives.
They're not to see how others do it.
Exactly. Gradual increases in responsibility to build confidence and management muscle, and regular feedback, both positive and corrective, to catch problems early, just like monitoring heifers for growth targets.
Because you can't expect half-baked training to produce a fully capable successor.
Nope. Like managing replacement heifers, it requires dedicated attention, a clear plan, and consistent execution over time.
Okay, so the research then pivots a bit, looking at the strategic decisions about scale that impact succession. They mention nearly half of dairies see expansion as their ticket for the next generation. But is that just, chasing trends? Like everyone chased those super tall Holsteins in the 80s without asking why?
That's the key question. The research is clear. Size for size's sake is folly. The fundamental question has to be, does growth truly fit and support your transition story? Or is it just adding complexity and debt?
So if expansion is the path, what needs to be considered?
Well, the economics absolutely have to pencil. Rigorous analysis, how fixed costs dilute across larger herds, capital efficiency metrics down to the penny, projecting cash flow through that capital-hungry growth phase.
And financing?
And critically, structuring financing to protect both generations from excessive risk. That's key.
And technology plays a huge role here, right? Especially with expansion.
Oh, absolutely. Growth is often linked to modernization, rotary parlors, that/labor, sophisticated herd management software turning data into decisions, automated feed systems for consistency, precision repro tech. Research, like from Dairy Business Innovation, documents how these painful upfront investments actually improve quality of life and resilience for the next generation. It makes the farm more attractive, frankly.
But it needs to be strategic, not just emotional, not just bigger is better.
Exactly. The research urges skepticism towards that old mantra. While USDA ERS confirms scale economies exist, innovation today creates success at diverse sizes. What truly matters more is strategic market alignment, operational excellence at your chosen scale, differentiation, maybe niche products, maybe components, and those robust financial frameworks tailored to transition.
It's like selection indexes shifting from just height to lifetime profit, valuing overall performance over simple size.
Well said. And research from Michigan State found that investing in facility capacity and superior genetics often outperforms simply buying more land for successors with less capital. Smart growth, not just land grab.
Processor relationships, too. That seems critical before expanding.
Absolutely crucial point, the research highlights. You must lock down processor willingness to take more milk and clarify terms, component premiums, transportation, base excess rules before you break ground. Nothing derails expansion faster than surprise deductions or finding out they don't want your extra milk.
And involving the next generation from day one?
Do or die for expansion success, according to the sources. Expansions succeed when successors are involved from the get-go, collaborating on business plans, defining roles, discussing financial structures, documenting timelines before any dirt moves. It has to be their plan too.
Okay, but expansion isn't the only answer. What about staying the course? Steady state?
Yes, and the research makes a strong case for the strategic power of that. Maintaining your current scale can be a brilliant move, creating a level of stability expanding farms might envy during a tricky transition period.
And the focus shifts then, maybe towards components.
Exactly. Component focus literally transforms your milk check, especially under MCP pricing. We saw that 2023 data. Butterfat driving nearly 60% of revenue, protein adding another 31%.
Wow.
Maximizing components often outperforms the obsession with just adding more cows. The research details strategies, prioritizing component genetics, dialing in rumen fermentation for butterfat, eliminating acidosis, mastering seasonal consistency.
So you need to ask yourself, income per cow or income per pound of components?
That's the question. The research suggests analyzing this often reveals more profit potential in the current herd than you might think.
And risk. Steady state must have a different risk profile during transition.
Generally, yes. Risk profiles rarely match perfectly between generations. Maintaining scale often creates a saner risk profile during transition. Lower fixed costs, potentially reduced debt, simpler management, more nimbleness when markets inevitably shift. It's like eventing rations for optimal rumen function, not just maximum production. It's about health and stability for the long haul.
So success means optimizing resources you already have.
Yes. Obsessing over return, per unit per acre, per labor hour, per dollar of capital. Tracking costs religiously, maybe strategically outsourcing non-core functions. Mining DHIA data for every ounce of insight, that relentless pursuit of efficiency gains.
And lifestyle. Does that factor in?
Increasingly so. The research acknowledges that maintaining a manageable scale can support quality of life during a complex transition. That's incredibly valuable for young families needing flexibility, for multiple generations needing predictable income, for seniors wanting continued involvement but not the full burden.
Or just when work-life balance trumps bragging rights about herd size.
Precisely. Analogy time. Your best cows need dry periods for lifetime productivity. Perhaps your family business needs to operate sustainably, not just maximally, to ensure its long-term health.
So these individual decisions, expand, stay steady, retire, are collectively reshaping the whole industry landscape.
Absolutely. Understanding this macro trend positions your operation advantageously whatever path you choose.
And the consolidation trend is undeniable.
Oh yeah, the research details this steamroller. USDH data. U.S. farm numbers plummeting from, 648,000 in 1970 down to barely 24,000 in 2022.
24,000, that's stark.
It is, and 2,500 shuttered in 2020 alone. Meanwhile, milk production climbs, absorbed by mega dairies. Operations over 2,500 cows now produce over 60% of the nation's milk.
But the research is really clear. Bigger doesn't automatically mean better. Innovation makes success possible across sizes.
Exactly. It's about that strategic alignment, operational excellence, differentiation, and those robust financial frameworks tailored for transition. It's like selection indexes evolving from just height to lifetime profit. Successful dairies optimize their specific model for their goals.
And technology is a great equalizer here, isn't it? Not just for the giants.
It demolishes old limitations across farm scales. Robotic milkers, rumination monitors, precision feeding, heat detection tech tools, unimaginable previously, are now accessible. They slash labor needs, improve work-life balance, especially robotics, allowing more flexible milking schedules, enable data-driven decisions that boost profitability.
And they attract a different kind of successor, maybe.
Definitely. They attract tech-savvy successors who might be put off by the traditional drudgery. Like genomics democratizing access to elite genetics, technology is leveling key operational playing fields.
Component strategies are also reshaping markets because of MCP pricing. You have to optimize for that now.
You really do. Are your genetics and feeding programs truly optimized for this shift? The progressive farms we read about prioritize component genetics and actively cultivate processor relationships that specifically reward composition. It's a different way of thinking about maximizing value from every cow.
Environmental considerations, too. That's becoming a bigger part of succession planning.
Increasingly impacting it, yes. Forward-looking farms integrate sustainability not just for the planet, but because it prevents regulatory headaches and actually slashes costs. Things like emission tech, carbon sequestration in soils, smart nutrient management planning, water conservation, energy efficiency is becoming a fundamental part of operational resilience and future-proofing the farm for the next generation.
Okay, hearing about real-world examples really helps cut through the theory. What success stories did the research highlight?
Yeah, they provided some good ones. One example detailed was an LLC formation on a 220 cow operation. The owners formed a limited liability company to hold the assets, land, buildings, equipment. Then they sold incremental interest in that LLC to their 30-year-old successor over time, lowering the upfront buy-in.
Smart.
They also created a formal, decade-long employment agreement for the senior generation to define their continued role and income and establish clear management divisions.
And the benefits.
Liability protection, streamlined transfers over time, potential tax advantages. It's like a well-designed breeding program, adapting to market signals, putting guardrails in place that provide structure while preserving flexibility.
And that asset operations splitting model from Canada, that saved a farm.
It did. It saved a dairy that seemed financially impossible to transfer otherwise. The Senior Generations Corporation held the land and equipment, while a second operating company, which the successor primarily bought into, ran the cows in production. Leasing the assets from the first company drastically slashed the successor's capital needs and, crucially, guaranteed retirement income for the senior generation.
Analogy time.
Like separating mature cows from first lactation heifers for optimized management of both groups, different needs, different structures, same overall goal of herd productivity.
Okay. Targeted expansion. Ideal dairy farms.
Right. Their growth wasn't random. It was centered on specific investments. A 72-cow carousel parlor, energy technology. They engaged external audits for efficiency and incentives. The focus was on achieving scale efficiencies in specific areas, not just getting bigger across the board.
So, like selecting genetics that express their full potential under your unique management conditions, optimizing the system for a specific target.
Exactly. And then there were alternative models, like Challenge Comb in the UK. A fundamental shift.
They went pasture-based, organic.
100%. Slashed feed costs, improved herd health, better environmental impact, and allowed them to target premium markets. It required a fundamental reconceptualization of their dairy.
Challenging conventional wisdom, like innovative crossbreeding programs, questioning Holstein dominance, but delivering potentially better health and components.
Precisely. It shows there are multiple paths to success if you're strategic.
Okay, so after seeing what works, the research also clearly states what kills transitions dead in their tracks.
Yes, and it's depressingly consistent. Waiting until retirement is looming, the planning needed to start years earlier. Fuzzy math that ignores the genuine financial needs of multiple households involved the senior generation and the successor's family.
Sweeping that fair versus equal conflict under the rug.
Until it explodes and demands selling assets just to keep the peace, undermining the farm. Half-baked successor development that creates critical skill gaps just when they're needed most.
And handshake agreements.
Oh, the handshake agreements that completely evaporate when memories differ down the road or tragedy strikes. Fatal.
It's the brutal truth reiterated in the research. When 83.5% fail, the culprits aren't usually just economics or market forces alone.
No. It's insufficient planning, poor communication, and inadequate successor development. The industry analysis consistently reveals these human factors doom most transitions more than milk price ever could.
So successful transitions aren't accidental. They're built deliberately, brick by difficult brick. Do you, the listener, have the stomach for the uncomfortable conversations and tough decisions required? The research we looked at provides a battle-tested roadmap.
It really does. So based on everything we've dug into, let's distill that action plan. 7 steps that consistently show up in the success stories.
Okay, number 1, start planning yesterday. Seriously. Document your current operational reality assets, liabilities, management systems, performance data. Establish baselines like comprehensive milk recording and financial statements. You can't measure progress or make informed decisions otherwise.
2, talk, then talk more. Schedule regular family meetings specifically for succession planning, not just about day-to-day stuff. Create safe spaces for honesty, acknowledge emotions but focus on solutions, and don't hesitate to use mediators for those long-standing landmines. Apply the same dedication you would to your herd health protocols, consistent and non-negotiable.
3, hire specialists, not generalists. Get agricultural attorneys who understand farm law, financial planners focused on farm transitions, accountants who know dairy taxes backwards and forwards. Don't saddle your farm's future with generic advisors. It's like trusting your genetic program to someone who doesn't understand a sire summary. Get the right people.
4, build successors systematically. Map out the technical and management skills needed for the future farm. Create meaningful, increasing decision-making opportunities for the next generation. Provide honest, actionable feedback regularly. Develop your successors with the same meticulous attention you give to your replacement heifers. They are the future of the farm.
5. Rethink financial structures. Explore options like entity splits, phased transfers of ownership, strategic leases. Successful succession demands creative approaches that balance opportunity for the successor with security for the senior generation. Like moving from conventional tie stalls to robotics, sometimes it requires fundamental restructuring. Don't be afraid to look outside the old box.
6. Put everything in writing. Document ownership, management roles and responsibilities, financial arrangements, and crucial contingency plans. What happens if someone gets sick or passes away unexpectedly? Your succession plan deserves the same detailed attention as your breeding program. Clear objectives, measurable outcomes, regular evaluation, no handshakes.
And finally, 7. Review and revise relentlessly. Schedule annual progress assessments with your family and your advisors. Make necessary course corrections as markets change, family dynamics evolve, or plans hit unforeseen bumps. Like monitoring feed efficiency and tweaking rations based on results, this keeps the plan on track and adaptable. It's not a one-and-done document.
The future of the dairy industry, whether it's expanding operations, optimized steady-state farms, or creative alternative models, really belongs to those with enough guts to tackle succession head-on. Intentional, documented planning isn't optional anymore. It's survival.
So here's the brutal honesty mentioned in the research for you to consider. Are you building something that outlasts you, actively creating a pathway for the next generation? Or are you just maintaining an operation with an expiration date that kind of matches your own? This industry doesn't need another sad statistic. It needs your farm as a lasting legacy.
And unlike issues like mastitis or, repro problems that sometimes strike despite your absolute best prevention efforts, the research emphasizes that succession failures almost always trace back to things entirely within your control: inadequate planning and poor communication. Things you can fix.
So here's the provocative thought to mull over as we wrap up. You have a choice today. Join the 17% success stories or become part of the 83.5% failures. There's really no middle ground here. Your action or your inaction is already writing your farm's final chapter. What will you choose?
That's a wrap on today's deep dive into dairy succession planning. If those statistics didn't get your attention, nothing will. Remember, 83.5% failure rate isn't inevitable if you're willing to take action. The choice is yours. Join the 17% who build lasting legacies, or become part of the 83.5% who watch their life's work disappear. There's no middle ground, and waiting until tomorrow just moved you one step closer to failure. Head over to www.thebullvine.com to read the full article, download our succession planning resources, and join the conversation with other forward-thinking dairy professionals who refuse to become statistics. If today's episode challenged your thinking or gave you actionable insights, share it with another dairy family who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to the Bullvine podcast wherever you get your shows. And hit that notification bell so you never miss the content that could save your operation. Until next time, this is the Bullvine podcast, where we don't just talk about the future of dairy, we help you secure it. Keep building that legacy.